Did did you guys get a notice that we're recording? Anybody?
I didn't hear anything.
Yes. I
Okay,
got a
so
message that it was
okay.
recording.
Okay, so we're recording. Good. All right. So again, just to back up for the recording, again, the audience that we're talking to are, of course, the Burris clerks, our future interns and clerks that want to get started, within the next months instead of waiting until the summer. Volunteers, volunteers for detainees, like you guys that are out there, like trying to help out the detainees in terms of like writing their habeas corpus writs, that type of thing. And then also the Truth and Reconciliation Project, which is at some point in the future, we will do a Truth and Reconciliation Commission in Minneapolis, and we will use these statements of facts in order to, you know, tell the truth of what we saw happen and what other people saw happen, and they can use this as a starting point. Um, but the first thing I want to do is review sort of the process that we use for doing intake, sending emails and calendaring, and then the Google file sharing, which is all an important part of you know what what we're trying to do. But you got to have the processes before you start writing the statements. So real quick, I'm going to show you just some slides that we use for most of our uh for our basic what do you want to call it, like orientation. So let me start the slideshow first. Let me share it. It won't be too many slides. So if you guys can see that, can everyone see that? Is everybody seeing an actual slideshow?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep, I
Okay.
see it.
So I'm gonna go forward a little bit. So usually we when we get to this, we talk about, our timelines and everything, and we'll get to all that at some point, like our litigation timelines and right. But basically, when we start a case, we got to collect everybody's information. And again, they're going to call you in an emotional state, and they're going to want to tell you every single detail, and even sometimes be like, he said, she said. But really, what we're trying to do is, it's our job to be professionals and get the information that is most pertinent for building their case and also analyzing it, right? So you guys as clerks, attorneys, your number one, your penchant will be to believe everything that they say, and wow, this is a great case. But again, it's never that easy, and that it's never slam dunk, right? We're dealing in the law, we're dealing in a situation where we got to play the game that's given to us. All right. So you got to get the information to determine whether to number one, analyze objectively whether or not they have a good case, really to determine how the person is, as how they present as a witness, as a person who can tell their own story. Because somebody can have the best case in the world, but if they can't tell their own story, then the case is dead in the water, right? Or if there's just something wrong, you detect something off about the person. So that's what this is all about. But regardless, we got to collect their information, right? So you get their name, date of birth, you know, we want to write the statement of flat facts, and basically prepare some type of packet for them. But most importantly, we need to get their personal information and exactly what happened. All right. Um, And we do a lot, we kind of got to go back and forth in terms of like, you know, we create documents, send emails, but basically there's a specific way, right? A process way. And again, this comes from me having at one point been in software, and this is back in the day. Some of you guys are software engineers. Everything's done differently now, but basically when you write like a script, I was like the guy on the servers, so I'm doing code pushes, things like that. So everybody, whenever you write a new script, and then other people will come along on the next shift, and then they'll update it or whatever. So you gotta have a system for knowing what the document is and who last edited it. So you'll see right here where it says titling documents, emails, but look at the documents. When we create a document, we give it a name, and you see where it says settlement conference statement, basically. And then you got the version, and then you got the person's initials. That's OL, that's Okalani Luna, and then the date is she updated it. Okay. Um, So you always want to do it like that. And then if I do this, if I just show you real quick how our documents look like sample naming conventions for documents. Um, so you'll see if you look at this real quick, you'll see down at the bottom where we're talking about naming conventions, for instance, meeting notes, the version, you see my initial and the date, and you do it in numerical format, 0, 22, 21, 26, all right? Or meeting notes for this case, right? Cabrera versus Coleman, version 5, the the initials. So I think Julie's on here, so Julie Eklund, and then she puts the date 01/24/25. All right. So this is her fifth version of her meeting notes. All right. Um, again, we have deposition notes for House versus Sacramento should be actually. We got the version 3, the initial, and then the date, right? Got a lawsuit here. Lawsuit. Siegel versus Metro. This is her 10th version. We know that it's Crystal Mackey CM 04/25/17. So you know the date, and then somebody else comes along and changes it. All right. So that's about for the naming convention. And just keep that in mind. And by the way, you can take notes, but I'll also have this information for you. And I'll be talking. Joyce is on here. Joyce, if you want to introduce, she's like one of the senior clerks, been working for a few years, went through this training. And I thought I saw Ian somewhere. Ian's there too, but they'll do some more training sessions. But basically, you'll get this information repeated to you. So again, naming convention, entitling documents, and that type of thing. So, um, and you'll see some samples here. So these are all sort of. So I want to get to actually to and let me see. Can I back up? I don't know if I can press the back button here. Let me try to do that. Yeah. So like I was saying, you when you talk to most people in the type of work that we're doing, like the civil rights stuff, they're going to be very emotional. They want to air out, what it is. They will talk. And if you're not, if you tend to be a very polite person, nice person, that's all great. But again, in this situation, you're a professional, so people are relying on you to, provide guidance. So sometimes you got to interrupt people and just say, hey, I I really understand like you're emotional right now, but I really need to, in order to, move your case along as fast as possible, I kind of need you to work with me here. So please let me just let me start by asking you some questions or whatever I have to, so because we're going to be doing so much of this that, you'll be given a limited amount of time. But the pros, the people that are veterans, like, say Ian Joyce, who've been doing it a long time. I think Brooke was on there. You know, they get a lot of the calls. They can get this done probably in about 10 minutes, I would say. So that's, 10 minutes is what you're aiming for, or less, if possible. Keep in mind who your audience is when you're writing your statement of facts. It's going to be judges, attorneys, and other clerks, sometimes media, public outlets. The writing voice that we have is always third person, and we always use the active narrative. So, you know, we'll get into we'll get into that, what that means, but active tense voice, and then you're writing in the past tense. Okay. So for instance, you don't talk in the Oakland vernacular. What had happened was, right? Like that's, past, I don't know, even past progressive, some type of tense like that. But like street talk is always, you don't want to do that in your statement of facts. So let me go forward a little bit. Um, when we do the when we do the statement of facts, you're using short, succinct, declarative sentences. And again, a little bit of, English lesson, you know, most of you guys went to, liberal arts colleges, so you wrote a lot of papers, and this is just bringing up stuff that you had nightmares about, but just bear with me, okay? Um, and even if you didn't, it's a review of what you learned in high school and elementary school, so it's fine. But Again, subordinate conjunctions, you don't want to use, you want to use those as little as possible, but these are subordinate conjunctions, right? Because, unless, although, even though, until, and then conjunctions, regular, and, but, or, for, and you'll see why that's important. But you don't want to begin a sentence with the conjunctions, with the regular conjunctions, right? Like and or but. All right. You want to use them as transitions. Remember your quotations and exclamations. You do want to use those where they are specific. For instance, if an ICE agent says, "Get the fuck out of the car," you want to quote them exactly, and you want to put, you want to do um, uh, proper grammar, and you want to use, exclamations. Commas. Don't want a lot of commas in your statements of fact. They are necessary if you're, transitions and, prepositional phrases, but not often. And then, you got to know the difference between a colon and a semicolon. Semicolons, like, we all learned in college expository writing or like in high school, is that, you start a sentence, so you say, however, or it comes in the middle of the sentence. He really liked red apples, comma, however, or, semicolon. Uh, you know, he also liked green apples or something like that, where you're trying to organize two thoughts into one sentence. It's a lot about pitching your case, but the main thing with this slide is that when you off the phone with somebody, you need to be able to come and tell me, like Crystal, Ian, Joyce, uh, you know, Trisha, this is the case. You got to be able to summarize it quick. Like, this person got beat up by ICE on 24th and Nicollet on, January 26th at approximately 1 o'clock p.m. Or, this person got detained. The location of the detainment was, 24th and Aldrich. It happened on, February 2nd, 2026 at approximately the approximate time was 11 o'clock a.m. Okay. So just, and we'll get into this later, but I'm just saying you need to be able to distill your case down into a sentence to be able to tell us, and so we can move on with it. And just in your mind. All right. People tend to talk a lot. I do myself, and, but you still should be able to pitch a case or distill it down to the pitch content. So into the writing, all right, before we get into AI. So you go to other law firms or other places, they're going to teach you a different format, but this is our format. So just keep this in mind. This is our format. And what you'll find is a statement of facts determines everything, like is used in every single aspect of the post intake, you know, like you use it, we write the statement of facts, and then you find out you're cutting and pasting it into every single document, from the lawsuit to the discovery documents, media statements, your settlement conference statement, even your trial documents. Okay, 3 paragraphs. There's an opening, that's your lead for you journalists, but it's your opening. The second paragraph is the action, right? So I don't know if I'm the only one that reads action novels here, but action novels, right? If you do read action novels, you want to write the action. Okay. And then the result. The result is always, as a result of this incident or something like that, this happened, or as a result, the person died, or as a result, they suffered these injuries. All right. Very short sentence. So that's what the 3 paragraph looks like. So again, like I was saying, background setup. It always starts with the incident took place and the date and the time. All right. So you can see where I said, the incident took place at or near 123rd Main Street, San Francisco, California. Right. That's okay. And then you want to identify the claimant, or whoever, the victim, whatever you call it. So here we have one down at the bottom. The incident took place July 10th, 20, at on July 10th, at approximately right near the intersection of 31st Street and Martin Luther King Boulevard in Oakland, right? That's my house in Oakland, okay? So that's kind of the start of it, but it always starts off the incident took place, not on or whatever date. Like I think I had one of those with somebody the other day where they started off the whole thing with a prepositional phrase on this date, 4 score and 7 years ago. But yeah, you want to, again, we're writing in the active voice and you're trying to punch the person who's reading it in the stomach with like this. So first sentence is always the action. Second paragraph is the incident or the transaction, details of what happened to the person, right? And you want to refer to them, maybe the first time you refer to them by their name, and then, you interchange it with like their name and Mr. Cook or James Cook or Cook, something like that. And you can see like a little snippet. And these are really old, actually. These are not even, this is probably from 2016, but Officer Ward reached in, Officer Ward, that doesn't need a comma right there. It just should be Officer Ward reached into Smith's car, period. Then Officer Ward yanked him out by his shirt, period. The officer then threw him to the ground, period. And then, you get into that. But the point is you want to, you really, you want short declarative statements, a declarative statement, subject and verb, um, object. Third sentence, describe the injury suffered as a result, had to go to Highland Hospital, or the staff, or, suffered a broken arm, or as a result, the person died, or as a result, the person was taken to the Whipple Center and, period. The claimant was later charged with obstructing. All right. So these aren't the greatest examples, but you get the idea, right? So again, paragraph one, the protagonist. We're telling a story. Remember, that's your job is you're telling a story. Location, address, state, time, zip. That's it. Who, what, when, where. It's a lead, right? And again, the incident took place, and you guys see this is what your first paragraph should really look like, right? Don't abbreviate and never abbreviate anything. You use your standard time designations, P dot M dot, so on and so forth. And you want to include the full address and zip code. If you don't know the zip code, you can always just type the basic address into Google and it'll find the zip code for you with the state. It always begins with the incident took place. Again, action writing. We got to make it compelling, short sentences, subject verb construction, and again, avoid subordinate clauses. So again, subordinate clauses, prepositional phrases. Subordinate clause, right? We begin it with because or though, although. We want short sentences in the action part because that gives you the most punch when you're telling the story, right? Or, for the attorneys, you're arguing in motion. Boom. Like, you don't want to get a whole lot of preamble up to like the actual action that took place, right? And again, you introduce them in the active voice. So what do we mean by the active voice? Like, James was making a smoothie. No, James made a smoothie. Boom. James made a smoothie. Then James drank the smoothie. Okay. So like that. Also, you want to tell the story in chronological order. Paragraph three, make the conclusion compelling as a result, so on and so forth. I'm going to show you guys samples, but that's our three paragraph format, right? And that's kind of how, and here's some writing samples. And again, these are old. These are really old. We've since improved this, but and like the interns that have come through have like improved the writing significantly. And by the way, when you first write a couple of these, like I'll probably send them back and be like, no, you got to go through and look at this, but you'll get to this pretty quick. I think we got a good system of teaching people. So here's a sample, and you can see this guy, Jesse Jetmore. This is, wow, 2013. I was a law clerk teaching people how to do this. So you see the middle paragraph, right? And then, they attempted to stop, right? Stop him for reckless driving. And there was a subordinate clause in there. Does anybody see where the subordinate clause is? Anybody want to guess? It's real easy. Okay, well, when police got out of the car. It should just be police officers exited the car or got out of the car, period. Right. And then, another police officer named Packman rammed the passenger side of the vehicle or something like that. I don't know. Police officer shot 10 times, but that's a statement, but it needs to be improved. Let's see. Um, okay, so let me actually show you guys some of our some other ones. Let me show you some good solid statements. Oh man, hold on. So I got to get out of that one. So here is a what I would, um so let me just show you. Okay. So this was written, this is a new case that's coming up. Again, attorney-client privilege, but you guys, we don't want to go talk about this, but so here, this is written, Ian wrote this. Incident took place. Like, I love this, right? For the attorneys, they can't object, right? This can almost be a judicially noticed fact for the attorneys. And as you guys go through law school, you'll know what that means and why it's important to have as many things in your statement with judicially noticed facts. All right. The location was, and right, he's got the zip code in here. And we really want to say Edward, was a nursing supervisor, but and what we can make the changes to it. But basically, you see, right? Um, was the nursing Tracy Brown, right there, the directors of nursing, and we're talking about an employment case right here. Was a nurse manager, and just he's naming all the players, right? We say Marianne Felipe suffered, and he's using past tense voice termination from this hospital, right? And we probably clean it up here. Boom, stop it right there. Stop it from termination, or stop it right here. Full stop after center, and then the termination followed her reports of waste, theft, and protests against a hostile work environment. So that's how we would clean it up. But this is a great start, right? Um, October 1st and then so here, this is fine, right? When you get into the action, you just don't start the entire thing with a prepositional phrase. But here on October 21st, um, and he's starting to lay out like the specific incidents that happened. Then this happened on this date in June of 25, right? It just kind of lays it out. Now, this is not a police statement of facts, but it's getting sort of the pertinent things, and there's a lot of ways you can clean it up, but that's a good start, right? And then as a result, so that's what I would say about that one. Let me show you another one just real quick so you can see. Okay, so here's another one. All right. So yeah, Ian's tend to be really solid. This Joyce, I think she's on the call, also tends to write really solid. Actually, no, not that one. Statements of fact. I'll just show you one more just to make the point. I just gotta find where did I put my email? Nope, that's not it. Sorry, folks. Just a second. I'm trying to find. Oh, I know what I did. Okay, here we go. So this is more what we're looking for in terms of like police cases. So again, this Joyce V3. incident took place, and you see, and then she makes another one with the time, the location, and then she sums it up in one sentence. That's perfect, right? That's a perfect way to start it, right? The police department used excessive force. Um, ICE detained so and so, right? And then she gets into the action right here. I would say Hong suffered from ongoing delusions, but that, we can live with that right there. So, she's got to use sort of past progressive or past whatever here to describe that. But how would I do this differently? I would probably, well, look. So she's kind of describing like some of his prior actions, I guess, to make sure that we have like a full breath. But really, once the action starts, like on the particular date, right? So realistically, George, we could have taken this out, but it's fine for right now, right? And then we could have just said on March 25th, officers arrived at the scene of alleged break-in, right? It's an alleged break-in. Officers reported seeing Hong outside the residence, so on and so forth. After several minutes, he climbs down, and then they shoot him with a taser, and then you start getting into the real action, right? And then as a result, and you typically these are not that long, but in this particular case, there's a whole drama with the hospital actually tried to take his organs. So like we had to go to the hospital and file something like that day and try to prevent that. So it's important that she wrote about this in that, you know, this is part of not only we're going to sue the police department for the excessive force, but also the hospital for taking his organs and trying to take his organs and causing all this trauma with the family. And the lawyers who are on the call and the people in law school know that in terms of emotional distress, you can make claims of that when they're dealing with corpses, right? With family members' corpses. All right, so I like this statement of facts. So that's what they look like, right? And and I'd like them to be cut down even more. But that's the quality, the level that you want to produce in the statement of facts. And sometimes when I tell you, hey, you got to go edit, like if I'll send you like an editing list, and this is what I mean. So editing, just to remind you, in terms of our statement of facts. I'm assuming you guys can see this, by the way. Anybody not see it? Yes, no. I can't see anybody on camera, so you guys got to speak up. I see Julia at
Yes,
the
we can
top.
see it.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, just go through and number one, you go through and say, make sure we got the three paragraph format. And then you got any repeating nouns or subjects in the sentence, right? Interchange with it, so you look through all your paragraphs and make sure you don't have this, right? Or that you might start with Jim Cook and then you go to Mr. Cook. By the way, Jim Cook is my dad, right? Um, RIP, but Jim Cook, or he was my dad. So Mr. Cook, Cook, he, his. So you want to interchange these, right? These nouns or references to the nouns within the sentences. And you never ever want to repeat a sentence with Jim Cook and then the following sentence says Jim Cook. You want to go Jim Cook, then Mr. Cook, then Cook, then he or his, and then back to Jim Cook or Cook. All right. You don't want to repeat verbs in subsequent sentences. Um, yeah, so you can use Google to get a synonym, for instance, like here, we're going to be using this instructed or ordered or directed a lot because we're dealing with police stuff, so in law enforcement. Or in the case of we're going to be defending people in their criminal, right, in their criminal cases. Generally, you don't want to have any commas in the second paragraph unless you need to introduce like some background information. Generally, we won't. We'll just get right into on this date, boom, this happened, and then we'll say what the three major things in the incident are. Then again, we want to go active voice construction. So you go through every sentence. And generally going through this it shouldn't take you that long if you wrote a pretty, succinct statement of facts, but you can actually just do a search on these words: was, has, had, and then was going, had been going, to make it he went, he had, or he gave, whatever it is, okay? Correct times: 5 p.m. is 5 p.m. You don't write the dates this way. You write out the full date, February 20th, 2019. And again, for the attorneys and the law students, you know, we are trying to do as many facts in the statement of facts that can be judicially noticed, or where you can at least make the argument this is judicially noticed, right? And if you remember judicial notice in evidence, um, but it it prevents the opposition from trying to obfuscate like what the facts are if you can throw in as many judicially noticed facts as possible. And that is going to happen with ICE. Like the fact that they have their faces covered, you know. So we want as many as possible. Uh, Numbers, always everything under 10, spell it out. Don't ever write five like this. Spell it five. I got five on it. All right. So if I would have seen their lyrics, I would have been like, no, don't write five like this. You have to write, I got five on it. I got five on it. All right. You guys know what I'm talking about. I mean, I think I made my point. Um, and don't end the sentence with the prepositional phrase, right? It's you're asking for an objection, and it's just best practice not to do that. So I drank 5 beers on, and then it should be comma on October 5th, 2012. All right. Whereas I can start it on October 5th, 2012, I drank 5 beers. And that is probably true because if the Vikings were in the playoffs, then I forgot. Anyway, all right. Final thing, when you're going to send an email or make a calendar entry, make sure you get your subject lines correct. And it's like you put the whole, whatever it is that we're looking for, the subject behind a colon, not a semicolon, but a colon, right? Colon introduces the definition, where in James versus Cook is the case, or in this case, talking about deposition dates, all caps, followed by colon, Ring versus City of Chandler, with the case number, if there's a case number, fine. If there's a case number assigned. So you got to see if there's a case number. Same thing with follow-up conversation. You're going to be doing this a lot. Colon, Tran versus Walnut Creek. Now you say, why does he do this? Well, look, you guys get, um, you guys will get, a few emails, your email, but I get like 50 emails in a half hour. And also like we're doing class action suit. You gotta have some organization up front. Plus, it's always good to be able to, when you have your emails labeled like that with the case name in the file, I can do stuff like summarize the disposition, summarize the status of the Arellano case. Makes it much easier for you to use AI to do that type of thing. And you're going to be doing that a lot because we have so many emails. And you can see, gives me my case number, everything that I need, right? Um, everything that I need, you know, I could say, please provide talking points. Wait, are you guys seeing this?
I'm still seeing you on the notepad, but I'm not sure
Oh,
about anyone else.
crap. Okay, you guys are still seeing the notepad. I'm trying to show you guys. Okay, so again, let me start that again. So you guys say, well, what's with all the particularity about, you know, um, like what's the deal? So first of all, it makes it easy to organize. Also, you can use AI to do your searches on big cases like, like the one you're going to be working on. For instance, I said I was doing an Arellano, but let's say you guys can see the Gemini prompt down at the bottom, right? Can anybody not see that? Can you guys see it? Okay. So for instance, I'm doing cases that are not in play anymore that are already public record. What is the status of uh Hart v. Redwood City? I already know the status, but I'm just doing this just for, all right. And then I can get a summary, right? And it gives me the actual case name, and that's important, right? And it can tell me, everything that I need to know. Or please, so things like that. I mean, as simple as that. Your searches get better. You get it more comprehensive, and plus, it helps me keep it organized because of the amount of emails that I get, right? So I think it's still going through the emails, but yeah, so it's able to look and kind of give me, you can't you don't get a great sort of you can't get it's hard to get a comprehensive summary from your AI like Gemini or ChatGPT unless you've done some upfront work, right? It gets you half the way there. So okay, so there's all of that, right? So let me stop sharing. So let me just stop here before I get into the AI portion of it. Does anybody got any questions or I mean, and you don't like no question is stupid. Like all you guys are you're here trying to learn how to do this. Number one, to do this for, uh, to contribute to the effort to stop people from being deported, to help protesters or whatever it is. But this is our way in the Burris office, at least with the remote team. This is how we write our stuff. Are there any questions, real quick, that you can think of? Or if you want to just ask me later, you can call me after this. But I'll just give you a chance if you want to ask any questions with the whole group here. But yeah, you're always sticking with the three paragraph format. That's number one. And the purpose is to make sure that you write less. All right. Less is more. All right. Yeah. So okay. Sure, no questions. Now, any comments especially from the vets? Uh Ian, start with Ian. Any comments, anything I missed? Or no?
No, I think you covered all of it. I mean, what you said about frequent edits is real. That's just part of the process. Don't feel discouraged. And it's better to receive feedback because then the correct description of the incident is sent out instead of something that's unfinished.
Yeah, okay. That's cool. Yeah, that's a good okay. Um Joyce, anything to add?
No, no, not really. Naming conventions are very serious. You will get those sent back a lot if you do not
Yeah.
name it correctly. And it won't matter if you've been here for 6 years or 6 days, they're getting sent back.
Joyce is like, yeah, I've been here yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's important. Like, make sure you do that and learn how to do that in our universe, all right? Because we got to be able to track that stuff and yeah. So anything else, Joyce?
I think that one that I got hung up on was things need to be in simple past and not past progressive. If your word is ending in ing, you really need to look at that. If it was an action that was interrupted, that's really the only time that that would happen. Always focus on something's always happening to the potential client. Act always use active voice. Active voice is really important.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Joyce, I mean, you guys are trained, Joyce and Ian, they'll make sure that they've gotten good at it, right? So they know. And again, and you guys that are going to law school or you're taking the bar, like this is how you do it. Like this is what's going to get you those points. And so you don't run in, and really even more importantly, so you don't run into writer's block, you know? You're not like because basically what you can do is you just take I'll show you exactly what I do. When I get on the phone with somebody, all I got to do is hold on, let me just so if I, and you guys are seeing this, did you just see me open up an email? You guys see that?
Yes.
So when I'm getting ready to do an intake, right, all I got to do is take like see. So I'm gonna take another one written by Joyce, right? So I know that I'm gonna email this, right, to are you guys seeing this where I write Joyce, Crystal, right? Let's say Ian, and I'm gonna here. And so then I start asking the questions. First of all, what's your name and name? And I can already get this done. Um, because I know I'm going to be emailing this over. So I already put their emails there and I just statement of facts. And then I think this person's name was Mark and El Dorado, right? So I'm just going to say Mark. We'd actually write the last name. Let's just do that. You guys watching me do this? Can you guys see that? Or actually, no, let's do it like this. Okay, so I'm on the phone with him and I say, okay, Miss Exlin, what was the date of the incident? And she says, oh, it was the date. Like once I get him to calm down, it's February 21st, 2026. Well, what was the location of the incident, or what was the approximate time? People want to like dig through the documents, but let's just say it was 9 o'clock a.m. And then what was the location? Well, the location was, you know, we'll just say it was Pony, or I would take this out. Hold on. I just lost it. Did I lose it? No, I didn't. And then I just say the location was, 1916, 15th Ave, South, Minneapolis, and right. And then I'll say, and then who was the department that confronted you? Do you know the name of the deputy? Well, we don't. All right. Well, we'll just say, and the arrest of, all right. And that's how you get started. They'll talk like, kind of what happened and you suss it out in your mind. But basically, you know, she was leaving to go to the store. And then you can just start writing in there, take your notes in this part, and then what happened to you as a result? Well, my arm got broken and they took my phone. As a result, Miss Eklund's Miss Excellent. Also, um, and that's very rudimentary, but that's how you do it. And then, we just send it off, you know. So that's like probably the best practice for doing it. Have one that's already ready to go. Put your information in, and then you're done. What we actually do is have you put it also in a Word document and update each version of the Word document, but you get the basic idea and send it off. All right. All right. So that's statements of fact with with just writing them out. And you got to learn how to do that. And I think everybody's got to do like, 4 or 5 of them to really get, in the mindset of how to do it. But now we're going to talk about doing it with AI. All right. So number one, the first thing is just remember, you know, uh, like any type of file sharing, whether it's or AI, all that stuff, it can if you're not careful with it, become public record. So you should always log into your account. Also, we have disclosures now in our documents that so like please you don't got to tell me. I know we disclosures about AI, but it's like anything. If you use any file sharing, uh, you know. Google Drive, share me, Dropbox, all that stuff. If you're not careful, it can become public domain, but we all got to use it. I mean, it's kind of the way that we transfer information. It's really what's at our disposal now. So the first thing about using AI is like prompts, right? So Ian was actually the first person to do it, and then I kind of used his prompt to develop a new one that I just like for me. So here's what I'd say. I created a new one. And this is specifically for the police case. And again, we'll do another training and we'll go through it and allow everybody to create one. But let me just show you the basis of it. So and we're talking about using Gemini, not ChatGPT. Use Gemini because you got more control over the security of it, and everything has to be confidential. All right, but again, when you use this, and when you basically use your email, anything like you're opening, yourself up. So you have to. We as a law firm have to take precautions, no matter what. All right. That said, here's what my prompt looks like. Right, you're saying you're an attorney. Function is to provide, everything. Like write it out, get it, clear in your mind. All right. And you see everything that I've written up at the top. And again, you will get this. So you can take notes on it. That's fine. But this is how you do it, or this is how I did it. And then your objective, generate a statement of facts. We tell it, and I'm telling everything that I can consider. Critical facts, right? We need the date of the incident, the time, location, all that stuff that we just talked about, right? And I broke it, and after I said what all the critical facts are and all that kind of stuff, I break it down into tasks, right? Creating a, a you know a statement of facts and how I want the title to look like, and then what the format. Then I get into the 3 paragraph format, right? So you got to understand it really well in order to do the 3 paragraph format. And then as a result, then I always want the plaintiff's like information, right? By the way, you guys are seeing this, right? Iman? He's at the
Yep,
top.
yep.
Okay. And then I gave it some examples. I gave it a bunch of examples. Case is not in play. There's another example. And then I said, I also wanted to write memos, right? Because I use these memos not only for me just to get it kind of clear in my mind, but and I need it in the IRAC format or the law student kind of writing format, right? So, and we'll get into that later, but basically I need IRAC, so I tell it how it should be. And again, this took a lot of work for me to do, like a lot of trial and error, but you get there for what you need. That's why. And then we tell it how it should write the memo. different types of memos, and I give it a lot of law as well. I give it a whole bunch of different types of memos. And then remember the editing checklist? It's right there, right here. This is the paragraph, how the statement of fact should look, and then we get the editing checklist, as you guys see here. Then I referred it to actual videos of me, like writing statement of facts. There's Alice when she used to teach it, other websites, and other legal writing websites. So this is my prompt, right? And so let me just stop the share. So that's how you got to do a lot of upfront work. And I got to say, like, remember the AI, it only gets you half the way there, right? Next, in a couple weeks, we're going to talk about like doing research, but you got to know, like, there's been some cases where lawyers have used AI and they've completely blown it. Like they just got lazy and they didn't like research what AI comes back with. AI is almost pretty much wrong every time, right? You'll see that. So you got to go out, you got to look at the cases and the statutes that it's come back with. But what it gives you, what it does is it saves a lot of time by giving you something to work with. Okay? It gives you like the start of it. And then you got to edit it from there. So let's say it gets you there 70, 75, it gets you 75% of the way. But you got to do research and you got to read through and just make sure. All right. So that's one of my prompts. Okay. So now I'm going to show you what it looks like in play. And this is how you guys will use it. But first, I'll have you, you know, I will want you to like learn how to actually write the statement of facts. But since we're talking about like mass, um, we're gonna be doing a lot of cases. Yeah, you need to know the basics of writing the statement of facts. So now let me share my screen and show you how this plays out. So first, oh shit, hold on. First thing that I want to do is I want to show you how it begins, right? So I get an email and I'm showing you cases that have already been that we've already worked through before. They're already out of play. So let me see. Okay, that's just so here's just an email that was about Hunter Bergner that came through a long time ago. Yeah, last year. And it's just basic information about his case. And all I'm going to do is I got this thing worked out to where I just need to just copy. So this case has already been adjudicated. It's already public record, so on and so forth. So now I want to so imagine this just came in and now I want to say, okay, I got this information about Hunter Bergner. I want to write a statement of facts. And I kind of want a memo just to get me in the mindset of how I'm going to approach this case. All right, or what I'm going to do with this case. So now I go over to my Gemini. So now we're going to get into AI. I have my Gemini gem set up for police cases. All right. I take the email that I just copied, put it in, and then press go. So now AI is thinking through it. I'm just going to let it finish. You guys can see this, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So let me just take this. I'm going to go down. I'm going to copy it, and I'll show you what we have. All right. Oh no, don't want to share that. Hold on. Hold on a second. So basically, can I just cut and paste what I got from AI or from that into, let's just say, call it statement of facts. And we know that this is Bergner versus San Mateo. And I don't have Trish's, but let's just say I don't know if I have Iman's number either, but like and I could make some changes. I would probably need to make some changes, but look at what you get though. You get a statement of facts that you can start to work with. It cites some penal code language, but again, we gotta go look that up, right? It goes without saying that you gotta go look it up. It says 42 USC 1983. And then what are we doing? And then it gives you that. And also gives you the contact information. But we get a little memo down here. Deliberate indifference. Now, I already know like yeah, that's what we're always gonna allege in prison cases, right? We're also gonna allege, loss of familial relationship, and we're gonna look at, wrongful death under California Civil Code. And then it gives you your IRAC, you know, the rule. And again, but you always want to check this. I already know this language is correct because I actually wrote it a million times in different motions. But you as a law clerk, you still got to check, be thorough, and then it gives you a good analysis and then your conclusion. Loss of familiar relationship. So we already know the 14th Amendment, yeah, it protects the right of association and objective characteristics. There's also some other language that could be added, such as the language about shocks to the conscience and that type of thing. But so you gotta add to this and just make sure, yeah. And so we can allege that, and then in mine, I ask it to tell me what the probability of is prevailing in this, and then you know. I don't know. You can agree with it or not, but it's always good to be objective, okay? So that's what that one looks like. Let's just do one more before we end. So I just sent that off to him. So let's try another one, another statement of facts. Arlano. So again, like I said, I'm just going to take the email. There's already some writing that was done. I'm going to take the email. Okay, and that I got from Joyce a million years ago. Uh, and again, I'm going to do the same type of thing. All right. So let me stop share there. Let me open share there. So I just cut and pasted it. Okay. So again, can you guys see the Gemini? Oh,
I see
yes,
it now.
no. Okay. So I'm still in my police gem. Again, I just cut and paste it. So I'm gonna let it stop thinking. Okay. And then you guys can see it. It wrote out everything that I needed. But again, okay, so I'm going to stop sharing that and I'm going to go back over to the email. Trish, I don't have your email. What is it? Or is it Patricia?
It's just Trish, Trish, Poland, Poland at iCloud.com.
I'm sorry, what?
Trish, no A, and then my last name, Poland at iCloud.com.
Okay, anybody else want to be on this email? Just yell it out if you want me to send it to you, or I can send it to you later. You can email me. Anybody want to be on it right now? I'm just doing this just for.
Am I
Go
on
ahead.
it?
Yes, send it to me, please, James.
What's your email?
JEKramer71@gmail.com.
Okay, you're there. Anybody else? Joyce, I got you.
I upload my email to the chat if you want to send that in too. It's eamon.o'connor651@gmail.com.
EAMON. Oh, I got you
Yep.
right there. Okay. All right. So you guys, so you're seeing it, and again, we go through and take out all this stuff, of course, right? And just you got to edit. You have to edit, but this gets you the start. It just gets you a faster start, especially since we're doing so many. Oh, wait, you guys can't see this yet, right? I'm sitting here
I
talking
can.
about it. Yeah, you guys couldn't even see it. Okay, so the point that I was making is just, AI just gets you a faster start. All right. Again, we got the name, and then what are we dealing with here? Here we're dealing with the Bain Act. And so I always look up when it says stuff about the Bain Act because there's multiple levels to the Bain Act, right? And I would do more with this issue or the rule on the Bain Act. But this is a basic thing, but you gotta add to it, and that's where you guys research it, and we'll get into that the next time we meet about that. But look, we got that, and then they're saying that he has an overall AI said that he has an overall strong case, right? The primary pitfalls that the potential officers, he's reaching for a weapon. However, the claimant's mild temperament. Now, this case already resolved. It was not a strong case. I disagree with AI, and we actually settled it rather quickly, because he did have a weapon. And if you get a weapon, you're lucky if anytime you present a weapon, that is, if you brandish it, not in the Alex Preddy situation, but in his situation, it dropped out of his pants and he went to go pick it up. And they didn't shoot him, but they roughed him up pretty good, like, right? They grabbed and slammed it to the ground to prevent him from reaching for the weapon. So, and I'm just giving you, sort of like, yeah, I disagree with AI here, but it's not always going to be right. So don't just give us that. And you guys have to use some of your own intuition as to whether or not you think a case is right. Again, I stress, do not always assume uh, that that Gemini or any AI tool is giving you the correct information because most likely it's not. Plus, we want to know the things that it can't do is like it can't assess somebody's personality or the way they talk to you, whether or not you inherently think that they're lying or not telling the truth or holding something back, or if they just won't present as a good witness. So, okay, folks, that's pretty much it. I only wanted to go an hour, but anyway, I wanted to show you the AI tool. And so I'll show you more of the prompt. But any questions? No? You guys just want to try it out. Everybody's like, I just need to try. But we're gonna have to do this. And it will help you guys when you want to have a succinct statement.